I get a good feeling.
I expected more from you guys to join the good mood.
Oscar, you're the best.
I get a good feeling, guys. I get a good feeling because today we have a very interesting perform panel here with us live, and I can't wait to get into it and discuss the topic of robust communication together with my co-author and CEO of Startup Wise Guys, Cristobal Alonso. First of all, Cristobal, happy birthday of Startup Wise Guys, 9 years now. How are you feeling? How's the energy?
Energy is always optimal, as my co-founder and partner says. Splendid. It is splendid. It's Wise Guy's birthday, Lithuanian independence celebration. So fantastic weather outside. What else can you wish for? So all good, all good.
Amazing. Well, let's not waste any minute, and I want to give our guests 47 seconds per person to shortly introduce yourself, your company, so the people who are watching and listening can get a context of who is in the room. Starting with the lady, Kaidi, whatever the proper pronunciation is, maybe you'll let us know. Could you introduce yourself shortly?
Thank you. Yes, it's Kaidi for Estonians, because welcome from here up north. We have massive snow outside. So somebody has plus degrees. We have minus degrees, approaching to minus 23. Founder and CEO of Funderbeam. Funderbeam is a marketplace to fund and trade startup companies. So all startups who would like to raise funds from the group of investors, not only from a couple of investors, can come to Funderbeam. And when investors invest, these investments become tradable. We also do secondaries, and we also make your employee shares tradable on the marketplace.
Thank you, Kaidi. I'll go international. Daniel.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm from Croatia, CEO of Degordian. So Degordian is full-service digital marketing agency. So websites, mobile apps, Google advertising, performance, inbound, employer branding, and so on. We are, as Degordian, more than 100 people. As a whole group with Bornfight and Mediatoolkit, 250 people. We are based in Croatia, but working more and more internationally, like worldwide. What else? We were 9 times in Croatia best employer in whole country, and we are the company with most awards in the history of Croatia here. Yeah, I guess that's all for, in short, 47 seconds.
So 9 times best employer in Croatia. How much did communication play a role in this, being recognized as such a company?
I think a lot, but I wanted to add like a small intro from my side, that to be honest, I'm not natural communicator, and I'm really shit in that part. And I'm a guy who thinks, like, let's just do things and the rest will come. But to be honest, I learned at the beginning of my career how important communication is, and really I'm trying to be best communicator ever. And now I think that I'm in some parts of communication really, really strong, and in some parts struggling, but I see how that important is, and I'm really excited that we are talking about this topic today.
I think it's a very interesting point, and actually a point that Kaidi, you mentioned that we included in the book as well, that the point about being the chief motivation officer, like as a CEO of a startup, as a company, you also have the role to be the chief motivation officer, even if you're naturally not feeling like a great communicator. Could you maybe elaborate a little bit on that? Why is that the case?
Yes, that is true, because all the employees actually align behind the CEO and behind the leaders. But I don't think the motivation comes from being extrovert. There's a wonderful book called Silent, it's written about those introvert leaders and introvert CEOs, and how do introverts survive and actually do a great job in this super extrovert industry, while those managers expected to be the ones, like we started, dance on the stage and then ask everybody, follow me, hey, come on now, clap your hands. That's not the way CEOs and the leaders should work. It's about leading by example. It's about leading by doing. It's about leading by setting the goals, achieving the goals, working with people. It's about talking to the customers. It's about explaining where the company is going and what is the broader picture. And I don't think this is, it depends on the type of the leader, and also what the way you started. I think in so many business lines, the communication is maybe 80% of the success, the clear communication, clear expectations. And there's so many times when we kind of make a mistake, and at the end of analyzing the mistake, we understand that another communication matter, or lost in translation.
Yes. There's many times that this is happening. Even if you are super experienced, sometimes you kind of neglect and assume, and then things go wrong, and then you, as you said, you start analyzing. And
exactly, and maybe one word what you said, assuming. We kind of keep assuming too much, not going and asking. And we just had last week the annual review with people, and then when we were discussing about do they understand the expectations from the others, and they said kind of no, we don't. And my question to them is, do you go and ask? Because communication is like playing a ball. When you throw the ball, it's not about only throwing, it's about making sure the other is getting it. And the one who should be getting the ball also has to be ready. So communication is always like playing a ball, making sure the other one is getting it.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point. And Cristobal, you have been the person that's actually been doing a lot of the research, and you did you did write the chapter about robust communication in the book, and have been sort of like preaching how important it is in the startup world to master this area. Could you maybe explore and share a little bit about this? Why is it so important, according to you, based on your research, working with so many startups, for every leader of a company, not just the leader, every founder to be a very good, effective communicator?
Well, I think Kaidi already touched upon that a little bit. I think there is 3 or 4 fundamental areas there. The one is that most startups they start with 3 to 4 people, which makes the channel is basically everybody around a table. And you get very used to that. And one of the topics that Kaidi addressed is that there is trust element. So it's very easy to communicate with people that you trust and that you almost touch, right? And that was in the past. Now you don't even touch. But let's assume that you're still basically together all the time. So a lot of the things, these assumptions, they're there. You're touching with the people. You almost don't assume because they're constantly back and forth, making sure that everything is understood, right? But there is a growth path, and in the startups that are being successful, the growth path is very quick. And suddenly you go from a completely informal communication manner into a complete formal or a combination of both. And I think, and many first-time founders have never been there. In fact, they have even never been a manager in another company. So they are going through, I have to become an executive, or now I'm finally a CXO. Before I was just a founder. Now I'm actually a manager. So I need to manage people. And the key to manage people is communication. In all levels, right? Kaidi was talking about expectations. He's talking about feedback. He's talking about priorities. And I agree with her. The key of that is not even mastering. It's at least repetition. And making sure that when you're repeating, people is understanding what you're saying, and they're willing to give you feedback on that. right? And I think it's those loops that are so difficult to create and so difficult to maintain because the organization keeps growing. So now I got it, yeah, but now we're 40, not 20 anymore. Oh, shit. So there is 20 people who did not understand this. Now you need to repeat again the priorities. You need to set up a new informal channel. You need to make sure that your managers are communicating to their teams as you are communicating to your managers, right? So it's an ongoing, evolving area that if you don't make sure that your whole organization masters, not just you, but every single person that manages other people, soon enough, you're going to become what you don't want to become with people is this, oh, I don't want to be a corporate. And corporate is nothing else than silos of communication in which people don't want to take risk because it's not rewarded if you want to take it from the negative mentality that they have, right? So to me, it's this scale, this, in most cases, inexperience, and the movement from informal to formal that is very difficult. And let's make it more difficult. Let's get COVID pandemic, everybody online. And then the coffee chats are over. So because in the past, you could also at least just have so many informal touch points and feedbacks by just having coffee with your employees and just ask, hey, how are you doing, right? It did allow you to continuously pulse how people was doing. And yes, there might be different offices, but you knew there was in also offices people having coffees with other people. All of that is gone. If you want those, you need to force them. You need to call people in the middle of the morning. Hey, how are things going? You need to force the coffee chats, right? So I think communication has become even more important because it's right now the key level of engagement with your employees, which is easily lost, much easily earned. And I think that's the difficulty. And we were not trained for this. Too bad. You're the leader, so you need to do it anyway, right? So there is no complaint in the space right now. Is we need to adapt quickly and help our managers come with us. Because again, this is not about you. This is about making sure that everybody in the organization is coming with you in this adaptation and in this journey that we have, right?
Daniel, you wanted to add something, I can see.
Yeah, I was just thinking if it's important enough. Yeah, well, I agree with Kaidi and Cristobal, and I wanted just to add my experience. So I learned early that communication is super important, and I had to learn how to communicate with people, what are the ways, how to throw a ball so other guys can catch. And I totally agree with that. But what I see now also as a challenge when we grew, it's not only about my communication as CEO, then also of communication of other leaders, unit leaders, team leaders, and so on. And for me, that's even more challenging because you have, I don't know, 20, 30 people who are also some kind of leaders and have to communicate. And it's really super hard to get all 30 of them to be a perfect communicators. And here we see all kind of challenges. So one guy, he was communicating, just everything. So on board meetings, you would agree on something and he would communicate everything. And, not all people are ready to hear everything, all the decisions, why, and so on. And the solution was that, all people in his team was totally confused because they didn't understand, they didn't know why, and so on. So this is one example. Then another leader, he was good communicator, but he was always in a hurry and didn't prepare for communication. And this here I saw also a lot of trouble because you have something important and he just comes out and tell the news and that's all, and he didn't prepare, he didn't make effort to communicate, like, why is this important, why are we making this, what will be challenges, whatever. And I see there that people don't understand them and don't understand this news or decision. They don't know how to act, they don't maybe have a belief in their leader and so on. So I think it's not only that we as a CEO have to learn how to communicate. I think that every leader, every manager in a company should also learn. And if you're building a system in a company which is growing very fast, you have to put focus on that part also.
Yeah, just to add to that angle, I don't believe in perfection, and it's something that also I think in the discussion I have with Kaidi, that we put part of it in the book, is about leaders are very different, and again, you cannot expect that everybody is charismatic. What you want for them is consistency, right? and that their teams are consistent with them, right? So there is then people can actually fit into a model, and that comes up with culture, values, etc. I just wanted to say that there is a second part that is very important, which is the biggest challenge on communication for leaders is not talking, it's listening. The biggest problem we have, again, with the pandemic is that, it's even more difficult to listen because there is so much around you, right? And it's how do we make sure that we have time, not just to tell. It's very easy to tell, but then you're not a leader, you're a dictator within your own company, or you kind of do as I said. That doesn't scale, right? If you cannot delegate to people. The key secret is how do we create listening spaces where trust, that Kaidi always touches upon, is important. So how do you make people that they continue trusting you as a leader, so there is also feedback loops and there is a space for listening? Because we are so busy growing that many times we forget that we need to listen. Because if not, at some point, there will be a disconnect between where I'm going and where the company has to go. And the process is as fast as the slowest person in the team, not as fast as you can go, right? I can go faster than my team. And one of the fastest guys in the world, doesn't matter. I will go alone. And the clock ticks when the last one enters the arrival, right? It's not when I arrive. So I think that is this listening capability. And again, that is so difficult right now because you open the agenda like, freak, my whole day is booked. I don't have any time for any listening. Just have to be meetings, pam, 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 right? So how do we create these spaces for listening in this Zoom-driven or video call-driven space? Is also, I think, a big challenge that we are facing.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you what you said. Also missing those, not only the coffee breaks, but you randomly walk around the office and then you see people and then you grab a coffee, because leaders, they kind of look in the eyes of the team and they feel, okay, something is wrong. This person is down or something. You kind of go around it and you sense it, and you don't sense it online. And especially when so many people work from home, and I had one wonderful goal and with the business partner, and she said, I'm not going to switch on the cam because, one of the beauties of working from home is that you can really be like at home. But then the problem is I don't see the other person and I don't see. And there's so many ways how to listen. So the listen is also the email and the tone in the chats, but so much you can see from the person, how he or she is. And what we've done in Funderbeam, we created this coffee chats with teams remotely online, so that we have marks with us, but everybody is around the screen, so that we really see each other. And luckily Estonia is not so locked, so we still have the liberty to go to the office, those who want, and we kind of asked our people to be safe, and we keep track so that not too many people would be in the office. But still, we have to also be creative during those tough times. This online coffee breaks, and we even organize a quiz for all Funderbeamers. So we have a guy working in UK team who's really good at online quiz, and then you can still organize these team events and keep the spirit up. So that's, I think, is something that maybe differentiates a leader and a survivor, is that he or she is able to come a solution for these tough times. But obviously this human touch, you will totally miss the human touch, and also the team is missing the human touch, which is so important in the proper communication.
Yeah, I think in a way, especially, I think the three people here, actually their companies are growing quite well. So, I don't think we're startups anymore. Let's call it as scale-ups, right? But I think we got back to our inner startup spirit, if it was still there, because we need to test things. And we need to not be afraid of testing things. So as you said, hey, let's do a quiz. My team now is doing Zumba classes on Thursdays, and there is more than 20 people joining to dance together. They do every time we have a big meeting, there is always 20 minutes before you can join just to chit chat. It's almost an obligation when there is more than X amount of people. You can join before to chit chat, and but I think we're going back to the MVP style. We need to test many things, And there is no recipes in some teams, in some geographies, in some people. But every opportunity you have to keep that human connection has to be there, right? So we need to go back to test. But as Kaidi says, like, as leaders, quick. So test something, analyze it works, it sticks, doesn't matter. Guys, this is not working, next, right? Not be afraid to reinvent ourselves right now in many different ways. And what worked 3 months ago, by the way, doesn't work now. Because 3 months ago, people thought, this is only for 2 months. So I'm okay doing it this way. But now they think, oh shit, maybe it lasts another 6 months. So the mental state of our people is evolving, even if we think that it's static in a way. Oh, we are online. No, but the expectations and the expectations of people are different about, am I willing to stay like this for 6 months? And this is why we need to continuously talk to people to hear, hey, how does it sound? That single mother in my team with the kid there doing a school break that cannot go anywhere. I know that wish is going to go bananas. So let's make sure that we don't have too many meetings after 4 because he's hyper tired at that time. And while the other guy has a different condition, right? So I think that, again, we go back to listening. It is so much important than before even to have those ears as leaders up and sense things, right?
I think that now it's super specific time, and we are seeing like workplace revolution. And I think that workplace in last year changed more than in last decade. And remote work is much more common everywhere, even in traditional businesses, and everybody's going much more flexible and so on. But this is challenging for communication. And I think that all of our companies have to learn how to keep the same ways of communication, even in these new rules of a workplace. And I think that's much harder. And I agree here with Kaidi 100%. And what I'm missing also is when you're in your office, you see everybody, just like, for 10 seconds, and you can see that this person is super stressed, or this person is super happy about something. And from this, small parts, you can learn so much, and you can see like what is happening in your company, in your team, and you can adjust your communication to that. And when you're remote, you don't get that feeling, because in email, you won't get that. Everybody's polite in email. On calls, it's better. If you have like a picture, it's much better, but still it's not perfect. And I think that we have to learn, how to work with that. And I think that the solution for that is first to communicate much more. Second is to search for new ways to get instant feedback from people. I know previously we were asking for feedback, our people, every 6 months, but I guess it's too slow for now. Maybe on weekly basis we should ask for that. So I think that the paradigm of workplace changed a lot, and we have to adapt. But the new way of working is amazing. I think that we have to continue going into that way. Just we have to learn how to keep the communication same as before.
Yeah, I can completely relate to all the things that you guys are saying, and the fact that, we're social beings, we're human beings. Obviously, at home you meet some people, but at the end of the day, we were, evolutionary. We were living in tribes, in small villages. Like, you go and meet these people, and a lot of the creativity actually comes by the fact of you going and chatting to your colleague and saying, hey, what do you think about this color, about this brochure, and this thing. So this conversation, this synergy, you can create it in Zoom calls and so on, but it's a little bit more structured. Let's have a meeting about budget. So unless you intentionally, as Cristobal said, change your mindset to this more experiential sort of like, let me see what I can do to make sure that we have a little bit of a different type of communication, a bit more frequent, a bit more time for activities and conversations that are not necessarily with a specific objective work-wise, right? Like, hey, let's just have this whatever cup of tea and strange thing on this new platform or something like this. And I see that you guys are unmuting yourself, but I actually want to read a couple of comments. We have a few questions, and maybe we can take some of the questions. So Santa is joining us, and she's saying, great comment, not only hearing what people say, but also listening into what they're actually saying and not saying. Thank you for this amazing content, and as always. And let's take the question from Justina. Hi, Justina. Great having you on the stream. She says, "Hi guys. Question for you: a preparation of communication plans, nice to have or must have for the companies?" So, anyone who wants to take this?
To communicate, you need to plan the plan, right? And if you look at one of the frameworks that we created about communication, I think one of the key things that you need to plan to communicate with quality, right? And it goes into a simple thing like, if you write your Friday email to the entire company that people does, etc., you're much better at 9 o'clock than at 12 o'clock, let's say, right? And that's when you actually write properly, and you write positively, or you write clearly, right? If you don't block that time, the time will be filled by the time you get there, right? So I think we need to have communication plans, and of course everything will evolve. But I think is going through these quarters over quarters. So planning for communication is as important as communication, because if not, it will not happen robustly, right? It will just happen scatteredly, or we just not go down into communications. And the second one is a bit of a scenario planning, right? So if this happens, what are we going to do? And what are we going to communicate? Of course, then you're going to adapt, but you need to have the basic things, which also will allow your company to trust you as a leader, that you are planning some things for worst case scenarios, and there is something there prepared for that, right? And that gives the sense to your team that, hey, of course we hope for the best and we have a vision, but we also prepare for some of the things, because all you hear outside is people is going to be fired, people are going to lose their jobs. So that's ruining in your people ears all the time, right? So you need to secure that you understand what is coming in this direction, right? You have to plan to communicate. There is no other way.
Yeah, well, I wanted to say I'm not sure if I'm believing so much in like huge planning, but what I think is really important is preparation. And I know when we have something bigger, we always have all hands for that. And I think that here preparation is super, super, super important, because if you have like half an hour with 100 people or something, I want to be that this half an hour are perfect ones. And then I'm preparing. I have, to be honest, I'm having like, 2 times preparing on my own, like the presentation, the slides, how to explain this, how to make this clear. Then I ask somebody from leadership team, like, please help me, hear me out. I want to see how it's going and so on. And all these preparations just to make this half an hour the best possible. So I can be sure that I will explain it like on the best way so everybody will understand, that I will explain why this is happening, what is the decision, what will be in the future, and so on. So I think that preparation is super important, and I'm heavily investing all the time in that.
Yeah, the communication has 2 sides or 2 audiences. It's the external communication and internal communication. And for the startup, it is extremely difficult to plan any of the communication based on the plan. I mean, so much is happening around us. You don't know where you're going to be in 1 month's time, in 6 months' time. But what I've learned, not only in Funderbeam, but when I was also heading the stock exchange in Estonia, is what we need to plan and agree is how do we communicate? Is it protective? Is it explaining? What are the characteristics our communication is about? And that is something we've done in Funderbeam and also back in the stock exchange times, is that we stay neutral, we stay professional, we don't take sides, even if it's about the clients complaining about Funderbeam. We try to be as professional as possible to explain the situation. The same goes talking to the employees. It's not about saying he did it or yeah, we failed as a company to achieve this target because this team didn't perform all this kind of thing. That's like no way and a no go in Funderbeam. So it's first agree on the principles, how you communicate, because the communication is always happening daily, and then the large PR announcements, and then the new market opening, a new product, and then internal somebody leaving and somebody's joining and somebody's going to replace someone, either in the role or internal promotion or all these kind of things. So agree on how you communicate, and then whatever comes to your way, you keep the same principles, and it's easy to communicate. So that's my takeaway from this super hectic up and down startup life.
Yeah, Cristobal, you want to add something on this, or?
No, I think again, I totally agree. I think you can put into planning 3 words: planning, preparation, and a structure. And I think we all deal with it differently. But I think at the end of the day, again, to prepare, you need to plan. You don't have time to prepare. Structuring allows you to plan in a way, because you at least know when you're going to have to touch points and opportunities, right? So I think each company does in a different way. But without one of those three elements combined, you're going to miss it if not, right? So to me, that's actually an element. And again, you need to provide certain element of certainty to your team, right? So we live in a very uncertain times. So you need to understand that you need to at least provide certainty to your team. I don't know. We do every Tuesday, there is a team call for the entire company, right? And they know I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be fearless in the morning, and I'm going to be cheerful, etc. Okay, if everything fails, we can ask questions there, right? Or we have every quarter a planning, or every 6 months a strategy. So they know there is moments in which things are going to happen. So they know, okay, at least I'm going to be able to address something or be there, right? And that structure creates a center of certainty that we are doing things to keep adapting in a way, right?
Yes, 2 additions to what Cristobal, for example, said. We also have a team all hands meeting. We have bi-weekly. And my lesson from the COVID times, and now again to Daniel about this, you have to prepare, is when we had the on-site meeting, even though Funderbeam team is global, but quite many people still sit in the office close to the team leads. And whenever the meeting, when we had physically in the same room, you always have the way you can explain it later, or if somebody didn't understand, or this kind of that. When you're online, you have your half an hour or you have an hour, and you really need to communicate so that people doesn't sit at home and then wonder, whoa, what is now going to happen? What's going to happen to my job? What is going to happen? What's there? Even though there's no reason to believe it's like that. And I think we've gone so much better because of COVID and because of those structured times that we need to talk to people. We have to pass on the message so that they understand it. And we also introduced a Q&A. So we have a team leads who present every time about what is happening in their team, what are the projects going on, what are the future-looking projects. Then we talk about the revenue, we talk about, the achieving the sales goals. But bi-monthly, we also have the Q&A where people can ask questions. And then those to whom the questions are addressed are talking about it. And these are sharp. These are quite open and transparent questions, and it gives also a lot of feedback to us as well. What is important to employees at this point of time? Are they mainly asking about the COVID, or are they asking about the potential pipeline, or are they asking about whatever? What is the next big project for Funderbeam? It's I must say that because of this forced situation, we've got better in communication and those being innovative. What we did, we created a hackathon, online hackathon, and we just about to introduce a new product called Funderbeam Private, which means that companies can raise funds and trade in the private mode. And so the fundraise is by invitation only, and the trading is by invitation only. So, for example, if the employee shares a trading and the company wants to control who has access, how much to sell, we offer the full structure what Funderbeam has built, only on the private mode. And so we created a hackathon, and I kind of put the teams together, 3 or 4, who normally doesn't work with each other. And also that it's not going to be only sales or only in one team, but try to diversify the teams between the teams as well. And they had to create a one-pager of the product. And you know, the one-pager, this means that you really need to understand the product before doing it. And we got so crazy cool one-pagers that one of those one-pagers was sort of, we could take it and put it into the production. And again, coming back to the point what we discussed earlier, we have to be creative. If we're not creative, then who's going to be creative? So it's about this motivating your leads.
Yeah, just to add on the Kaidi mentioned the hackathon. We were talking before. I think there is one thing you cannot replace, and I think we are wired this way: is this brainstorming in a room. I think there is nothing that gets even close to that, and also to create the trust when you're meeting new people to do the first brainstorming together. But we don't have it, so we have to deal with second best. So we're using sprints a lot. So hackathons is a way. We're using a lot of Google sprints. We adapted to be 2 days or 4 days, depending on what it is. And I thought, it allows people to remove themselves from everything and just focus on this one. And then to have a structure to think and to co-create, right? So I think co-creation suffers a lot in this environment. For us, the Google sprints adapted a bit to our methodologies, which we also now introduce fully online, and we do it with almost 14 startups at the same time. And it's still working, but of course we did try and we did make mistakes. So to me, it's this co-creation that we need to keep working. But that's what I think. There is nothing with a blackboard and painting with people in the same room. That's probably the one thing that I miss the most these times, you know.
Yeah, also the new challenge in looking at the new companies being born and the newest and the craziest unicorn in Europe. We all work offline, or online, off-site. And also, when I think about the Funderbeam team, then we have Singapore, Estonia, Scandinavia. One of us is sitting in Iceland, which is 3 hours behind of Estonia, and which is like 9 hours behind of Singapore, and then the London, and then the Croatia, Southeast Europe. So we are remote, and it is a challenge actually to communicate while in so different time zones, remotely, different cultures, different, just like we started again with the dancing, and I made a joke, hey, you put Estonian to dance, so we're kind of reserved and quiet compared to Croatians who really, okay, we go, and when we need to dance, we need to dance. So to manage the cultures and to manage the time zones and to manage different work cultures online also is part of this communication, and I think we're getting there more and more, that people won't be in the office when this pandemic is over, and it's a new reality. We all need to face new reality and set the new communication rules for the company, and let's see what's going to be not even the winning solution. There's going to be the combination, but what is going to be this most acceptable.
And on the topic of, you said, we need to set the new standards of communication, new way of doing things and structure around it. We have a question that's more or less in this area. So somebody from LinkedIn is joining, saying, hello, great to follow your discussion. A question which I have in mind is how to serve the different digital communication channels across the organizations. Any centralized tool advised? Maybe Daniel, starting with you, 250 people agency. How do you guys do that?
Well, we are using Facebook Workplace. We were using before Slack, but to be honest, Facebook Workplace is better for us. And we are trying to do all of the communication there, and it works perfectly for us. yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, I can add to that a little bit. So we use Slack. By the way, I don't like it. I'm addicted to WhatsApp, but my team is very comfortable. So I think one of the key decisions is that you need to make sure that you make a decision of what is going to be the channel, right? And sometimes it's that I don't like it, but that's what my team feels more comfortable. So that's the channel, right? So we introduced that one. The second one is actually we went full on in Notion. So to have a much bigger space to share information that you can always click and go. You know, you can have Google Drive, etc. But you know, and Notion at the end of the day is almost like the knowledge sharing platform for the entire team. And we put a lot of effort to put more and more information there. And also we run the batches right now of the sharing information of the batches there because we have to share information with all the status running, right? So I think Slack, Notion, and just to add the third element that people was asking, and by the way, I still think that, you know, calls and emails are also part of that combination. It's a combo of everything together. But then they were talking about feedback, our engagement. And that's the one we are trying to, how can we get feedback almost real time, right? So we used to run 360s, we still do. We just invested in a company called Sorbe that is actually working with SMEs to get all this feedback, engagement, communication, etc. There was a couple of other tools mentioned there. But that's one of the areas that we need to. I want almost after every meeting that any employee has said, city meeting, great insight. I love this one. And almost it pops in my dashboard about, hey, the mood of the company is going up, the mood of the company is going down, because I'm missing the coffee and the walking around, right? So I need to feel this mood management. And I'm testing new tools. And by the way, I think this is the time to hire HR leaders. I think most of our companies didn't have HR leaders. At the most, they have admin people or recruiters. I think you need a specialized person in your company right now that understands coaching, engagement, people growth, etc. Because it was always important, but I think has become way more important. And again, there is a lot of admin people, but great HR leaders that work with the scale-ups. I think there is a new breed of people that are going to be moving into that direction. And it's a fundamental hire, I think, in people, anybody above 20, I think they need to be thinking of having this type of profile. You don't have to have a CEO to do that enough.
Mm-hmm. Also answering from our side to the question, I do believe in the central communication tool. We use the Estonian version of the Slack, but also thinking, should we replace it? But this means we have the topic related discussions. All the information is moving there. We have really internal emails are close to zero, only the external emails. We can share the links of the other systems. Okay, you find it there, it's there. Give the comments, work on the Google Docs. We have this professional Google used in Funderbeam. Hey, why don't you give the comments and all of it? So this one central tool where you can link the other tool is crucial. And we've been discussing, should we switch into something more modern and what is the next model? So you also seen my teenage boy on the screen who is working from home or studying from home because of the COVID. But he's been talking about Discord, and actually we've been discussing Discord in Funderbeam. So the Discord is born because of the gamers, but now become very professional and is growing massively. And what I really like, what Cristobal said, is this new thing called mood management, and this especially when working online. To manage the moods and also we've been striving to add a lot of gifs and the emoticons to the discussions what we have, because maybe it's the only way how we can express the mood. But should there be any way how to collect the feedback and also add it to the chats, that might help us leaders. But one aspect what I really find difficult while being online and only online is the acknowledgement and recognition of people. how do we see them? How do we actually, it's not about, going after the people and looking what they're doing and spying the screens and stuff. But somehow it feels that when we work all in the same office, we see what the others are doing. We see how they solve the problems. We see those tiny little achievements and we can acknowledge them immediately for those achievements. And now we're online, everything is happening kind of, I don't see, and I can't say, hey, good job. So that's what I miss. I would like to say much more, you've done a good job. So kind of try to solve it so that team leads let me know, and I have every Monday morning email about the achievements of the last week. And then we also send out the acknowledgements, but that's not that. You would like to do it as a person to the person.
Dan, you wanted to add something, I can see.
Yeah, I wanted to add a few things. First, Kaidi said like a few minutes ago that it's super hard that if one person is in Estonia, one is in Iceland, one is in Croatia, and so on. And I totally agree, but I want to stress out that we shouldn't forget about advantages of this new way of working, where it's much more flexible, much bigger benefits for people, much easier to approach talent. The second thing, what I wanted to add on that topic is I read one interview with founder of Automatic. They were remote, like even before COVID, and a company bigger than 1,000 people. And he said, like, yeah, it's great that everybody's remote. Maybe you don't have like cost of real estate so high, and it's amazing, but you shouldn't. You should invest in this communication. So everything what you cost cut on real estate, you should invest in like traveling, in team buildings, in events, offsites, and so on. And I think that when this COVID passes, I think this is the hardest period, because you can't make any kind of event. But when this COVID passes, we should all invest much more in some kind of offsites with the company, with the team, and so on. And it will be much, much easier. So if you have like, I don't know, big strategic meeting, well, gather everybody in Croatia, Estonia, wherever. If you have like big workshop, gather everybody, and so on. And I think it will be super important, and it will help a lot. The third thing which I wanted to say on Cristobal remarks regarding HR, I agree totally. And I think that, well, even before COVID and before these struggles in communication, HR is much, much more important than a lot of companies see it. And it's not only administration, it's really, you need people, you need team who is really involved, who is helping you with communication, who is talking with people, who is helping you, I don't know, in decisions, in procedures, in education, development, whatever. I think that's important. I think it's really hard to find a good HR person, because there's so many HRs, but who are much more administrative than this other better level of HR. And the third thing on HR, which I wanted to add, is also some companies, some founders think that if they bring a great HR person, they will solve all of the problems. But HR at the end is just a tool. So if you are like the best possible CEO or management, even without HR, things will work well. And if you are really bad in a lot of stuff and you bring the best possible HR, that won't fix. So I think that HR is more like a help, more like a tool which can help you out, but won't solve all of the problems.
Fully agree. I think you nailed it about, again, when you have HR, you even need to spend more time on HR. You just have an expert that guides you and gives you better insights and maybe offers you options, but you still need to make decisions, right? But it was time, going back to the question from Justina about planning, on what Daniel says. I already have planned 3 offsites. I just don't know when it's going to happen. Meaning I have one in June 15th. So I have already 3 scenarios. I said, okay, if by latitude in May in Estonia we're meeting right after latitude with a big party. If that doesn't happen, we're meeting in July. And if that doesn't happen, we're meeting in September for the getaway. I already have the budget set up, so I'm planning for it. I don't know which of the 3 scenarios is going to happen, but I know that my people is dying to see each other. I know the first day that we can do it safely, I'm throwing it. That's the party. I close the company for 3 days, and we're just going to be together, thinking, partying, touching each other, hugging each other, because we miss it so much, right? So I think but it's part of the planning. it's not going to happen if you don't put the budget for it right now, because after the COVID, you're going to have so many other issues, right? So you need to plan for it, and then you will see how in the hell you execute. So, but to execute, you need to plan a little bit about it, right? By the way, I tried to do, I don't know if you're not going to CLC. Oh, yeah. So there was a question, what was the name of the startup? It's Sorwe, S-O-R-W-E. But, so our startups, I like to make ads. So that, by the way, we are still not using it. She's selling it to us. And because I'm getting a new HR leader, I put it on hold until I have the new person. I don't want to make decisions until I want to empower my HR leader. But I actually like it, and I was defending them big time to come in, and they have something different. But anyway, just wanted to say that I agree with you. But they said that we're going to go back to 1920s. There was this frenzy, orgy of partying, getting together. It was this, after the first war and they said it's probably going to take 2 years to feel that way, but there will be an excess of everything because we have had so little of it, right? And I think, again, we need to plan, okay, that's the scenario. How are we going to deal with this as a company? Are we going to, and I think that's also refinishing how as leaders are used to travel. And now we haven't traveled, but the company is working. So how much should I travel then, And to me, there is the point about when we have different offices, you need to travel to meet employees, but many of the things that you were used to do them by traveling, you realize that you don't need to travel to make them happen, right? So it's also rethinking how travel will be part of our communication strategy and for what do we use it for. So I think there will be still back to travel, but I think it's going to use very differently. And it's going to be way more focused on our own people, to spend time with our own people and replace some of the activities that we realize, we can do many of them remotely. We don't need to be there, or we can put somebody else that is not us doing those things, right?
Yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Just a short remark. I agree with Cristobal, and I think that what is the hardest online is to do some kind of bonding. And I think that, for example, today I'm traveling to Belgrade, but I think that all the work stuff I could do remotely, so I don't have to travel there. But I think it's really important to be there just to make some kind of bonding. I don't know, to go for a walk with somebody, to see people, and so on. And I think that's the biggest value of travel. On the other side, what I saw, which is also not natural for me, that I don't have any kind of bonding because I don't see people. And what I'm trying now when I have with somebody one-on-one, that I don't go only through topics, like we have 5 topics, we have to discuss them, but really, to 5-10 minutes, just talk, like what is happening with your wife, with your kids, and so on. Because I think that's we're really lacking this in this new environment.
Yeah, I was actually about to say something on the same kind of a note, that you're dealing with humans. Your team is humans. Your company is humans. So it's not, you might plan all the how we can be efficient and we need to get these results done and these things done, but people have emotions, people have feelings. The context of what's being happening in the last 11 months have a big impact, for good or bad, on how we operate. So no matter, obviously some people are small companies, right? 2-3 people, they cannot hire an HR person maybe, right? But understanding people and prioritizing time to, to have these conversations, to have a bit more space to listen in the way you do it is really, really important. And since the time now is going close to, we need to wrap up very soon, I want to ask each of you sort of like a final question before the wrap up. And it's, if you can go back in the early days of the company you're running right now, what would be one advice you want to give yourself to the younger version of yourself, just starting now, when it comes to communication?
Okay, I'll start. My lesson learned from the early days is, first, because of our cultural background, Estonians don't talk before, the egg is there. And since the beginning, Funderbeam has been building the trading platform and the secondary marketplace for the startup companies. But our way of getting there was first you introduce a massive database of the startup so that we understand what is happening in the area to get the companies, match them with investors, and then start trading. And we were communicating what we had, but we didn't communicate what's the vision, where we're going. And now when I talk to people, some still say, oh, you have some kind of a database. I said, no, we're like a startup trading engine. We trade companies, we provide the secondaries, we compete with stock markets in the more novel way. And do everybody who's really, there's many ways how to get to the vision. Never forget talking about the vision. Never forget talking about what you're actually building. You're going there step by step by step. And in every communication, talk about what you have and talk about what you build. So we didn't had the vision part. And that's why we are now handling this kind of, oh, you're just some kind of a crowdfunding platform, or you're just some kind of a database, where we actually run a global funding and trading platform of private companies.
Excellent. Gents, do you want to add something? What would be your advice to your younger version self?
I'll let Daniel go first because he remembers probably better. I don't remember when I was young, So Daniel, go first. I need to think more,
Well, I just look like young. I'm older. What I'm a big believer is if you build a company and you want that company to grow, you want to be ready to scale. And I think that the best way to scale is to prepare for next phases. So I always try to run our company like we are double the size than we are. So if you're at the beginning and you have maybe 5 employees, I would act like we have maybe 10 or 20 employees and try, to prepare for that phase. And I think that Estonian mentioned that, and that's like 100% right. So when you're a small team of 5 people, you don't have to communicate because, like every minute you're communicating, like every day you're eating lunch with those people, and that's like natural part. But when you grow, it won't be like that. And I think that as soon as possible, you have to try, learning and adapting, like how you will be communicating when your team grows. So will you have some kind of all hands? Will it be, email? Will it be like whatever? But to try and to, try it out to be ready for later stages.
Yeah, I can do it faster because I have more time to think, right? So we'll just do 2 things. We'll train my managers on communication earlier. I think I was doing too much communication myself and not enough communications through them, even when they have very little people. So we'll do that. I will put more emphasis there. The second one, I have always maintained that companies can sustain the culture as it is to a certain degree until they're 50. Afterwards, it evolves dramatically. And we are almost there. And I think I should have, when we integrate the new partners from other countries, keep them as separate units, as partners, and keep the core being, then that thing can be up to 50 when we still 150, 200 with partners included, right? So it's separate the companies into smaller companies and create a still communication links between them, but maintain them in a way separately, because I think it makes more fluid and it would avoid some of the conflicts, because it's just very difficult to integrate 6, 7 different partners with different seniority, different communication methods. So I will do my partnership strategy probably a bit differently, which helps and relates to the communication afterwards. And I'm doing it now. I'm redoing it now with the new ones. But I think we should have saved some energy in that sense.
Thanks guys for this brilliant discussion, being honest, being open-minded, and really sharing all these things. And Daniel, Kaidi, thank you also so much for contributing with your insights and learnings for our book, Perform: The Unsexy Truth About Startup Success. Much appreciated. Some really good points there. And to wrap up this discussion, I would like to give you the word again, starting with you, Daniel, to just share where could people find you and your company online. And secondly, thanks for the kind words for the book. Why should people actually read the book and get a copy of Perform?
Well, all right. About our company and me, well, you can go to our website, or you can follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and I'm publishing all the things about company. Also, Degordian has its LinkedIn and Facebook and so on. So follow us and learn what we're doing. About the book, well, I think that this panel is like great advertisement of this book, because the book is really full of great thinkings, great advices from people like us, well, more like Kaidi and Cristobal, which are really great. And you can learn so much about communication, but some other topics as well. And if you like this panel, I think that this book will be really amazing for you.
Thanks, Daniel. Kaidi?
You can find us at funderbeam.com. I'm in LinkedIn, Kaidi Ruusalepp. There's no other Kaidi Ruusalepp in the whole world. So you can find me anywhere and be friends with me and follow us. And should you want to know how we can help you on raising the funds or giving some secondaries opportunities for your companies, then really send an email, kaidi@funderbeam.com. But about the book and why I think it's important, there's a nice saying that wise people learn from their mistakes, but the wisest of the wisest learn from the other mistakes. So I think this book gives you the wonderful opportunity to be the wisest of the wisest and learn from the other mistakes and not do so many mistakes on your own, because on the startup world, there's a nice saying that we dilute also because of the mistakes. So don't give the shareholding in your own company to mistake. Keep it to yourself. Read the book.
Thank you for the kind words, Kaidi. Cristobal, would you like to add something? And by the way, Mohammed is keep on insisting for the audiobook version. So
yeah, but they just do it because they want to crack at me doing an audiobook and laughing about me speaking time, right? This is the whole portfolio of wise guys said, yeah, we want the audiobook from Cristobal. I'm swearing on the book, etc. Right?
It's gonna be a bestseller, just for
yeah. But yes, on us, just startupwiseguys.com. We are actually right now in the middle of recruiting a SaaS batch 24. We also seen a lot of talent in cybersecurity, so we're paying attention to cyber companies, and we might overinvest in that one. There was a big incident yesterday in the Baltics on data security, so it keeps emphasizing that. But we're looking for startups, and yes, very happy to celebrate our 9th birthday today, but I'm looking forward to celebrate our 19th birthday 10 years from now. So we keep going. And the feedback we get all the time about the book is the same in the positive side. It is practical. So it has theory, it has methodologies, but it has a lot of examples for people like Kaidi, like Daniel, that are around you that have made these things happen with mistakes, but mostly with a lot of success. So I think you don't need to go to the US and the UK, and there is people around us who has a lot to learn from. And hopefully we have captured a good sample of them in the book together.
Yes, over 50 people we interviewed for the book, get the best learnings and insight, try to incorporate them. If anybody is interested to read more about it, you can go to theperformbook.com. You can read more about it and order a digital version or pre-order a hardcover copy. And if you've already read the book, please reach out to me, to Cristobal. We love to receive your feedback. It's just the best thing ever. So keep us posted. And just to wrap up this discussion, if you want to be part of this community of amazing people like Cristobal, Daniel, Kaidi, we have created a private Facebook group for people who are really willing to learn and to share. So drop a comment and let us know if you want to be part of this group, and I'll make sure we'll send you an invitation to the private Facebook group for people from the Perform community. So that being said, thanks everyone for being part of this great discussion about robust communication. Anybody, any final words, or somebody you want to say hi to your mom or something? Or
no, thanks to Daniel.
Hi to our teams.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm glad to share the stage with them, even if we talk often. I haven't talked to Daniel before. So pleasure to share the hour. I think it's always valuable to learn from others.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Enjoy the birthday, Cristobal. Bye.